In this week's parsha, we have a pasuk that says, "Umal Hashem elekecha es levavcha." Hashem will circumcise your heart, ves levav zarecha, and the hearts of your children. Now, the question, of course, is what does it mean to circumcise the heart? Seemingly, it should have said, "Es arlas halev." Hashem will circumcise the foreskin or the covering, the blockage of your heart. As we in fact have a pasuk in a previous parsha where the pasuk says, "Umaltem es arlas levavchem." You should circumcise the covering, the blockage of your heart. The truth of the matter is, in our pasuk, the Targum Onkelos, does translate it as Hashem will circumcise tafshus liboch, the covering or the blockage, the foolishness of your heart. But Rashi doesn't translate anything, so it sounds like it's about circumcising the heart itself. But what would that mean? Circumcision is usually associated with cutting something away. What are we circumcising? What are we cutting the heart off from? And the truth of the matter is, the question is, why doesn't Rashi explain that it's referring to the orla, to the covering, to the blockage of the heart? So the Rebbe explains. We need to look at the context of the psukim. The previous psukim are speaking about various different sorrows, troubles that are going to come on the Yidden. And as a result of that, the Yidden will ultimately return to Hashem b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, with their whole hearts and souls. In other words, the Yidden had done tshuva already and opened up their hearts to Hashem. Now our pasuk says, "Umal Hashem elekechas levavcha." Hashem is coming to circumcise your heart. You cannot say it's coming to remove the blockages of the heart or the foolishness of the heart, because there is no blockages and foolishness left anymore. The Yidden had done tshuva already with their whole hearts. So clearly our pasuk must be speaking about something else, moving up to a higher level in avodas Hashem. As the pasuk itself actually continues, after Umal Hashem elekecha, Hashem will circumcise your heart. What will this cause? Li ahavos Hashem elekecha, that you'll come to love Hashem, ki hu chayecha, because He's your life. In other words, that's what this milah, the circumcision, is causing. Meaning to say, even though they had already returned to Hashem with all their hearts and souls, but that could have been out of fear. And that is the novelty of our pasuk, that this milah is going to cause that the Yidden should have an intense love to Hashem. The question still is, what exactly is this milah? What are we cutting away the heart from? Another question is, if the whole idea is that Hashem is going to bring us to love Hashem, well, love to Hashem is really a mitzvah that we have. Every single Yid has an obligation. V'ahavtas Hashem elekecha. So what does it mean that Hashem needs to circumcise our hearts in order that we should come to love Hashem? So the Rebbe explains, the way our heart keeps us away from Hashem sometimes and causes us to sin could be in two different ways. There is one aspect where the heart itself had fallen down into a very, very lowly state. The heart is blocked. The heart is acting foolish. The heart is currently in a way that it's blocked from being sensitive to godliness. Now, this is something that the person, in fact, does have to work on to remove these blockages. And as we quoted the pasuk before, "Umaltem es arlas levavchem," that's your job to remove that foreskin or the covering, the blockage, the foolishness of your heart. But then there's another aspect, which seemingly there's nothing really that we could do about it. When the heart is influenced by things, external things from the outside. Like the famous idea that Rashi tells us elsewhere, ha'ayin roya, one's eyes see something, and then automatically one's heart starts getting a temptation to it. Now this is something natural that Hashem caused, that Hashem created, that Hashem made happen, that's the way our hearts work, and seemingly there's nothing that we could do about that. And this is where we need Hashem to remove this connection, this automatic consequence that happens as a result of seeing something. Automatically our heart gets excited about it. Only Hashem could change that. And that's the meaning of our pasuk, Umal Hashem, that Hashem will circumcise the heart itself. Meaning Hashem is going to disconnect this idea, the natural influence that happens from the things we see or the things outside of us, that we should get excited about them. And that's why it says, Umal Hashem, Hashem is the one that has to do it. And we see this again if we look at the context of our psukim. The psukim all start off, before discussing the troubles that happened to the Yidden, the psukim are actually discussing what brought to it. The pasuk says, you were in Mitzrayim, Vatiru Shikutsayim, and you saw all of their abominations, their avodah zaros, and that could cause chas v'shalom that a Yid's heart should start turning towards those things. So that's where it all begun. And that's why the pasuk then continued and said, eventually, after the trouble happens, Yidden do tshuva. But ultimately, what's going to happen when you do a proper tshuva, eventually, Umal Hashem, Hashem will circumcise your heart. Hashem will make that no longer should you be susceptible to these sorts of outside influences. And that you should, and then the result will be, if you're not going to be influenced by things that you see, the heart is not automatically drawn to these things. Then you'll be able to experience that ahava in the most powerful way, to the extent, as the pasuk says, "L'man chayecha," that this becomes your whole life. The Rebbe says all of this is very, very much connected to Chodesh Elul. We always read Parshas Nitzovim at the very end of Elul. The Baal HaTurim says on our pasuk the words "Es levavcha," the "Es levav," that Hashem is going to circumcise our hearts and the hearts of our children. Es levavcha, Es levav is the Rosh Hashanah Elul. He says this is why we say lots of slichos in the month of Elul. Now slichos is really the idea of tshuva. Now that would be more fitting with the first interpretation that we gave on our pasuk from the Targum that says Hashem is going to remove the blockages of your heart or the foolishness of your heart, which we said is more the tshuva idea. Whereas, according to the way we explained it now, which is more fitting with the simple reading of the pasuk, that Hashem is just circumcising the heart itself, which we would say this is the way Rashi would be learning, because Rashi doesn't say anything about the blockages of the heart. Again, the simple reading would be that tshuva was done already earlier. Our pasuk is speaking about ahava, the love to Hashem that comes afterwards. If that's the case, then our pasuk es levavcha es levav, which is again a hint to Elul, as the Baal HaTurim says, but it will be more associated with, rather than the avodah of tshuva, more with the idea of ahava, with tremendous love to Hashem. And this is also hinted in the idea that we know that another Rosh Hashanah for Elul is ani ledoidi v'doidi li. I am to my beloved is to me. In other words, the whole idea of Chodesh Elul is an attitude and a relationship of love, which fits very much with what the Alter Rebbe explains, that Chodesh Elul is a time that Yud Gimel Midas HaRachman, with the 13 attributes of mercy are shining. This is the time the Melech Hashem is in the field, accepting everyone with a shiny face, with a smiley face, and automatically arousing in the person as well a tremendous love back to Hashem. So again, according to the simple reading, Es levavcha ve'es levav is already speaking about ahava, and that's the avoid of Chodesh Elul, the way we're learning now. But let's go back to the Baal HaTurim for a minute. If according to the Baal HaTurim, Es levavcha ve'es levav, which is a hint to Elul, but it would be more about slichos and tshuva. Now the pasuk further speaks about ahava. Again, according to the simple reading, the way we explained earlier, the Umal Hashem es levavcha ve'es levav, that is about the ahava, and that's what's happening in Chodesh Elul. But according to the Baal HaTurim, that es levavcha ve'es levav is still the tshuva aspect, and later the pasuk does speak about ahava. We would then have to say that the ahava that speaking about the pasuk later, according to the Baal HaTurim, would be even a greater level of ahava that comes afterwards, after Elul. Meaning, according to the Derech HaPshat, the simple reading, the ahava that we're speaking about, which is already applicable in Chodesh Elul, because we're speaking about a kind of ahava that everyone is shaykh to. Everyone can have a connection to it, even those that are in the field. That's where the king is, in the field. It means it's shaykh to everyone. But the Baal HaTurim, who is speaking about not only al derech hapshat, he's speaking about already deeper remozim, hints in the psukim as well. That means he's going to a deeper level. So we're going to a deeper level of ahava that's going to come after the avodah of Chodesh Elul. In fact, this too fits with what Alter Rebbe explains, that in Elul the melech is besada, in the field, but then in Tishrei, those that have worked and those that have the special opportunities are able to go into the palace with the king, where the king is revealed in his fullest glory in his palace, and this arouses by the Yid after the avodah of Chodesh Elul. Now that he's in the palace of the king, this is going to be revealing now the next level up in Ava, a much greater one even than that which was achieved as a result of the previous avodas.